So this week's episode of Demon Slayer episode 7, I would have to say this was probably my favorite out of all the episodes. It was great, it had some charming moments, a lot of action, a lot of very serious and dramatic, but with that ending and reveal of what the big bad's been up to, hiding in plain sight with a human family, and just the shocking realization for our main character Tanjiro, this is not an easy scenario anymore for him, and I adore it. Anytime you have a villain who is like a demon, a vampire, a zombie, something not human, and you think, okay, it's easy enough, you locate them, you kill anyone that's surrounding him, and then everything is happily ever after. Like, that's kind of the overall journey that you typically expect. But when you layer them in with a human family who knows nothing, like they don't realize what their husband or brother or anyone like that is truly doing, it makes the dynamic so much more interesting because now you can't just go barging into their home because innocent people could be killed. It'd be a little different if they knew what was going on and that your husband is turning innocent people into the food and just demonic monsters, but it's a little different now, and that's just so shocking, especially because this episode was really about the smell of fear. What was really going down both on the demon side as well as the human side, and you can see that this man is really the head bitch in charge. He makes sure that even if you are about to die, people are saying, tell me the information about your master, your mentor, your head dog, they won't do it. They're that scared of this man because of his power, what they'll do to him, and that's amazing because you really can see the fear in a demon's eyes, which for the most part we don't see. They are very playful, they enjoy killing, but when it comes to this one person, that's where all bets are off, and it really becomes a completely different scenario, which I quite enjoy. This week's episode was a really interesting one just for the action alone, because it's kind of divided into two sections. We have the Nezuko versus demon combat, which is more hand-to-hand martial arts, and then we obviously have Tanjiro and his water techniques, which were gorgeous again. I'm really glad that when we do go into the overall water techniques, there is quite a bit to them in terms of like the stances, the footing, the overall body language, but also the scenery. As we can see when he gets kind of sucked into the swamp willingly, he does this whirlpool, which is just amazing. I love the idea to it because they really went into the technicalities. So you're thinking, because at least I was like, how is he going to do any techniques if he doesn't have solid footing? He's just like floating. Like, you can't move that well in water unless you're a fish. And I really like how it's like specified that he doesn't need good footing for some of these moves. And then just the way he twists his body to do this whirlpool to cut down two demons who really thought they had the jump on him, I thought was really cool because not only did it look brutal, and it kind of makes sense with how the techniques work, especially if he's using these water techniques. Certain techniques obviously would work well in water, and they're actually explaining the little details that I personally look for, while also just giving a lot of flash that it's just interesting on a visual level, but it's actually pretty interesting on a written level as well. And then when you get into the Nezuko combat, I really like that because even though she's not trained, like she never trained for 3 years to become a badass warrior, it's just natural demon instincts, but I like how she's actually able to do some pretty cool combat maneuvers and just the way she'll kick, and even when she gets screwed around with another demon, she is still holding her own. And I like how you have this moment where it actually looks like she could easily die, and you knew Tanjiro was going to be coming up. I mean, he was swimming up originally, so you knew he was going to come in, but I like how they have a scene of like, don't touch my sister, but it actually didn't come across as cliche. Typically when you have like a don't hurt my family kind of moment, it's like, okay, we've seen that before, but it's interesting because it really didn't feel like she was a damsel in distress or anything to that nature. She was holding her own and she was protecting innocent civilians for a good while, and of course there's going to be moments where she needs to protect Tanjiro, as we saw last week when the demons were about to kill him and she came barging through the door, kicking some heads off, which was awesome, and then we see Tanjiro repay the favor, and it's great because it kind of feels like they both need the others. There's going to be times where they work together in harmony and neither one of them will struggle, and then of course there's going to be moments where the other will have to protect the other because there's going to be a time where demons will obviously get the jump on them, and I love that. I love just seeing the variety to this action. Like, usually when you have a fight like this, where you have like the kind of demons split apart and you're going to fight them, they have their kind of split personalities, each have a different persona, I would think, okay, one episode is enough, but I'm actually glad it carried over across 2 episodes because we got to see a lot of variety and just how these characters are evolving in their new world because they weren't born for demon hunting, but were kind of forced into it, and it's really interesting seeing just the dynamic and overall character relationships really flourish, especially because we have a brother who really just wants to be the big brother, protect his sister, and not have to kill demons and put himself in danger, but unfortunately this is the hand he's been dealt, and he just keeps blaming himself for not getting information, feeling as if he's not doing enough, and you're seeing a lot of care and just overall personality really flourish in a moment that easily could just be, look at the cool action, he's killing demons, but we're actually seeing a lot of care. This is a man who understands what it's like to lose, and that's why he picks up the piece of clothing that has a lot of the accessories so he can give it to this man who obviously is going to think this is just a kid, but then slowly recognizes that this kid probably also lost a lot. His hands are hardened like a warrior. This isn't a boy, this is a man. There's a lot of like little small moments that really let Tanjiro's character flourish to not feel like the cliche shonen protagonist who really doesn't struggle. He's constantly struggling emotionally. He's constantly struggling even in battle. And it's nice to see how when there are characters similar to him who have lost or could lose, he really puts himself in their shoes and comforts them in the right way. He doesn't give them a hug, he doesn't shake their hand, he just gives them the thing that they need closure for, gives them a few pieces of words of wisdom, even if it pisses them off as he walks away, because he knows what needs to be said, and I really appreciate that. And to just see how, like, as soon as you finish one mission, your bird will come in and say, hey asshole, you have to go to another one, there's no time for rest. I actually really like that. It was actually a very humorous moment because we go from such serious and dramatic to annoying bird just chattering in your ear, and I adored it, especially because we have a character who grew up in a pretty, like, almost mundane area, not a lot of technology. It's a very almost retro area, and then he gets thrown into a world with street lamps and vehicles. Like, it's really interesting, and I'm glad they're actually playing around with technology, and it's not just one technology across the globe. Clearly different areas are going to be doing better than others, and it was really humorous seeing almost like Full Metal Alchemist level kind of comedy being like just so shook, like almost an Edward Elric reaction, being like, what in the actual hell am I witnessing? And it cracked me up, especially because I thought that's how the episode would end. You know, we got our main story kind of concluded with this kind of side story, and then we were going to maybe have some fun, some little dramatic here or there, and then set up for next week, and then we get to see the big bad just chilling. And the way they went about executing that sequence was just amazing, because it honestly made me feel fearful, because he recognized the scent that was at his house, and you knew he is not ready for the big bad. He is not ready to take out the person behind the demon organization. And that was really interesting. Like, that was one of the most tense things I've seen this season, of just a demon ready to kill, pulls away and shows his power that, hey, you can't do shit to me, and turns someone into a demon behind his family's back in front of the demon hunter. This man gives no shit, and that's going to be interesting because I wasn't expecting Tanjiro to meet this man so soon. Maybe at the end of the first course, sure, but episode 7, I don't think anyone who didn't read the manga would see something like that coming. Like, once obviously the scent was there, of course you start kind of piecing things together, but up to that point there was no reason to believe. Like, of course we got the foreshadowing that, you know, he's a dangerous person and even the demons won't betray him, but I wasn't expecting that, and that's what makes it so good. The visual production to the show is really great. Like, of course, you have a couple of, like, CGI crowds and a couple of moments where Tanjiro's walking in a CG manner that it wasn't, like, anything great, but it wasn't horrible either. But, like, the overall aesthetic, like, 95% of the time, the art style really doesn't dip. The animation is so interesting, especially with how demons move around and just the acrobatics, the swordplay, especially with the water techniques, and I mean, based on the opening, it's going to be cool to see other demon hunters and like the lightning techniques, things like that. It is just such a fun anime on a visual level. It is interesting to look at. You could mute the episode and just have fun 9 times out of 10. Of course, there'll be a couple of dialogue scenes where it wouldn't be that entertaining to watch just because it is dialogue, but for the most part, it is just such an interesting looking anime. It has such an interesting aesthetic, but just the visuals and how they'll move the body around, there's so much care and attention to detail put into the simplest of areas to make it feel like it is more than just a sword coming down on a demon's head. There's so much like little small details that a lot of series I don't think go into, but I'm sure the manga had, and I'm glad to see Ufotable is actually giving it this level of detail. The voice acting in this episode actually really impressed me, especially with Tanjiro as well as this man who lost his fiance. There's a lot of heartache, there's a lot of sadness and rage, and you can just really feel the passion behind the voice actors. It doesn't just feel like someone reading a script, it honestly feels like they got into the right mental state to feel as if they were losing something or they were witnessing a horrible demon enjoying killing, and I really enjoyed that. And especially because like the demons, they all kind of have their own little personalities as they were kind of split apart, and they all had their own little quirks that kind of gave them an extra edge with their voice, so it didn't just feel like a copy and paste of the same actor. This series is just getting better. The comedy remains funny while not actually feeling that off-putting like in some of the intro episodes, and just to see the serious and dramatic and where the story arc is going. The story between Nezuko as well as Tanjiro is so interesting and heartbreaking, because you have a brother who is really giving it his all and has done a lot of impressive things over the years, but still feels as if he's not doing enough, where obviously with Nezuko we can't hear her internal dialogue, but you can tell that she really believes in and trusts in and just really loves what her brother is doing for her, even if she doesn't fully recognize what's truly going on, and even if there was a little brainwashing going on to make sure that she doesn't do anything that she would regret. You're seeing just they can really stick up for the other. They really can have each other's backs, and if it was just Tanjiro going at this alone, he would have been dead in this battle easily. I mean, Nezuko saved him, and then he was able to save her in the same battle. It is just so interesting. There's a lot of story, and I love how the action isn't just flashy action. It is flashy, it is gorgeous, you can mute it and have fun, but there's actually a story being told with each battle, and just the little side stories that we get introduced to with these one-and-done characters, you actually feel for them. You feel for their rage, you feel for their crying and just heartbreak. It's really interesting, and I can't wait to see the future stories, and that cliffhanger is probably the best cliffhanger I've seen this season, and there's actually quite a few good cliffhangers, from JoJo to even just Attack on Titan. Like, this was just such a great episode overall, and the future of Demon Slayer is looking rather bright. For everyone who did watch, though, for manga readers or anime originals like myself, what did you think of this very adrenaline-pumping episode? Did you love it as much as myself, or did you have more flaws than me? Let me know down in that comment section below, and if you did enjoy, be sure to drop a like and also hit that subscribe button if you haven't been new. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.